We're in. Starting something once, the things that you learn from that, really you can carry through your whole life. So that's what we focus on at the Dingman Center, is helping students really go through the process, the entrepreneurial process, and which can be very, very, can be overwhelming at times and mystifying. And so we try to work to kind of demystify that process and give some tools that can be helpful. It's not really about the idea. Ideas are, like I say, it really are a dime a dozen. It's execution. And so a lot of times it's not, that's why we think this is so important, but a lot of times investors are, and I'm looking at a very broad category of investors, but they are focused on people who have done it before. Anything they can do, their job is anything they can do is minimize their risk and increase their return. We had a student group who was interested in doing tutoring services. And so they said, okay, well, we're going to give tutoring services. Well, we'll go talk to the students. They're the ones, they'll probably be the ones paying. They'll be our customer. Of course. They go, they talk, and the students are great, great, great. And they said, okay, well, will you pay $20 an hour? No, I don't want to pay $20 an hour. Okay, will you pay $5? No, I want it, I want it for free. I don't have any money. So then they went and talked to the parents, and they thought that maybe their parents would pay. And they found that was very hard to make the connection. University, actually it was called UMD Tutors, something like that. So they found that it wasn't the right place. And then they went and talked to, so they said, okay, I'm going to talk to career services on campus. And so they went and talked to career services, and they said, okay, would you pay for tutoring? And they said, well, we will pay for tutoring, but we already have, these are the reasons we already have people who are doing that. You should go talk to the community colleges, because they actually really need most help. So now they've gone, before they did anything, before they created any online platform, or before they created any curriculum, they totally renamed themselves because they went and talked to PG Community College. And PG Community College, turns out that they actually had budget for providing tutoring, because their whole goal is for these students to leave, to graduate from the community college and go, come to University of Maryland, for example. And so they love that. So they started out being UMD tutors, thinking they were focusing on students, and now they've totally changed their business model to be called, I don't know the name, but focusing on community colleges, career services departments to help with tutoring. And so for them, they didn't spend any money on anything. They didn't have a logo, they didn't create a website. But imagine if they had done all of that, get it up and running, and they realized that nobody wanted to pay anything for it. Whereas they went and found actually their customer was not the student. Their customer, the one who's actually going to pay, is actually turns out to be the career services department. So, but that kind of iteration is why this model can be really helpful. And so, I would encourage you. I can send the website. It's businessmodelgeneration.com/canvas. But one of the programs we do have is the Dingman Center Angels, which is an angel investor network that invests in companies actually throughout the region, more high-tech companies, because that's what angel investors typically invest in, companies that would eventually raise venture capital, things like that. I wanted to share with you this tool that we've been using, because it is actually, it's really on the cutting edge of how people are going about planning businesses. Really, people are throwing away the 50-page business plan that used to be the standard before you could even talk to investors, before you could raise a dime, before you would create a prototype. You'd spend all this time creating this long, detailed business plan. And the problem with the business plan is that once you put this plan out, you feel like that's what you have to execute. That's what a plan is. I mean, you all know from the backgrounds that you're in, you have a plan and that's where you have to go. But in building a business, regardless if it's profit or nonprofit, the most important thing is your customer. And so what happens is that people go and they have a plan and they have to execute, and then they go and tell their investors that this is the plan they have, and the investors hold them to that plan. And they never really typically have stopped to say, wait a minute, is this plan working? Are the customers buying it? And they build and build and build, and they build a prototype, and they are waiting for that launch date, that ship date. Okay, we can't wait, we're building it, et cetera, et cetera. And then all you're focusing on is getting it out to market. And then you hope that somebody's going to buy it. And that's been the typical way that a lot of businesses are growing. And then you see the ones, some go on like the hockey stick and really, really hit. And then others just continue to throw money at this product and more sales and more marketing, if we only had more commercials, if we had more salespeople, this definitely would sell. And so now, thanks to some research actually that someone out of Stanford named Steve Blank has done, there's actually a huge article on his methodology in the Harvard Business Review that a lot of this canvas that I'm talking to you is based on, has said, no, it's not so luck of the draw. It's not so much. It doesn't have to be so much risk in starting a business. You really can take some of that risk out of it by really thoughtfully thinking about who your customers are, what they need, and this crazy, crazy idea of talking to customers before you have a product. And so it seems like, well, obviously, wouldn't everybody do that? Well, no. People actually don't do that at all. They just think that they've come up with an idea, they sit and they do things in very much, a bubble. And so what we are teaching our students, so entrepreneurs that we work with, is don't spend the time writing the 50-page business plan. We're adopting this methodology of this business model canvas that is a very iterative process. And so I just want to give you a quick introduction to this process. I'm also going to tell you a little bit about our angel network and angel funding, and I know Cindy's going to talk about that more. But I really thought that in hearing what you guys are doing, that this might be a very good tool for you, and I'm happy to, time allows, come back a different day and do a more interactive session about it, because this is what we do with our students. Usually this involves like pads and pads of Post-it notes. It's great for Post-it notes. And there's actually a lot of tools. There's iPad apps you can get that kind of recreate Post-it notes, and it's kind of a fun way to really think about your business. The way it starts, if you look at it, is thinking about in the middle of like, what is the value, what are you offering? If you look at how this is separated, on one hand you have kind of in the middle you have this value proposition, and then on this side it's more focused on the customers and getting things out to market, and the other side is really the back end of, okay, how am I going to build what am I going to do, what services do I need, what am I going to do, who do I need to help me do that, versus on the side of the of getting out to market. Value proposition is really like, what have you decided that you're going to do that is different than everybody else? So is it, what is out there? Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to have better service than anybody? Do you want to have lower cost than anybody? Like, what is the value that you're going to provide? And then you think about it up here. You talk about what is what is the relationship you want with the customer? Is this the kind of something that you want where you have are you a storefront? Are you a website? Are you something that's going to be a one-time relationship with a customer? Or is it something that you have a longer relationship with a customer that you need to spend more time in building that relationship? What is that going to be? For example, if you're going to build a storefront, that's an in-person relationship. Your websites, you can have one-to-many relationships with lots more customers, but you can't necessarily provide the same level of service. So based on what value proposition you're offering, what kind of relationship do you need with your customer? Think about something like Netflix is a great example. Netflix, they were out there first. What a great idea! Put DVDs in the mail. Subscription basis. You choose between whether you want 2 DVDs or 3 DVDs. It's great. It's great. It's great. And all of a sudden, all kinds of companies come in the market, and they need to start thinking about how they're going to be streaming and all these other things. And their sales started going down. Everyone was switching, and then all of a sudden they changed their model and said, okay, we're going to deliver actual content, and we're going to create a series. And now Netflix has had a significant increase in their revenue, but they continue to iterate, think about what your customers need, and to continue to rethink your business model. Meaning, how do I make money? How do I get to my customers? In the earlier stages of starting your business, we tell people, go talk to 50 potential customers. Get a sense of, will they buy it? What would they charge for it? What are they willing to pay for it? What are all the competitors that you have that they see out there? Why would they buy yours versus other? You talk to the Harley Davidsons of the world before you make one piece of clothing. And it's amazing how much you can learn just by talking to people. And sometimes people are more likely to talk to you when they actually don't think you're trying to sell them something. Like, how's it go? You ask for money, get advice. Ask for advice, get money. Sometimes it works out like that.